15 minutes ago, Jungkook reveals the dark truth behind Taehyung's tour cancellation in LA. Before we dive into this, let me remind you, if you want to stay ahead on every twist and turn in the BTS universe, make sure you subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Because what you're about to hear will have you glued to your screen until the very end. The stage was set for something unforgettable. LA was buzzing, tickets had sold out within minutes, and fans from around the globe were already booking flights just to be there. Taehyung's tour stop in Los Angeles wasn't just another performance, it was supposed to be the emotional climax of his solo journey. For weeks, he'd been hinting in cryptic posts and subtle interviews that LA was going to be different, special, maybe even life-changing. But then, out of nowhere, came the announcement, cancelled. No rescheduling, no vague technical issues, just an abrupt end. For the millions of ARMY who had been counting down the days, it was like someone had ripped a page out of a beloved book, right before the most important chapter. And for days, speculation swirled. Was it health? Was it a company decision? Was it something worse? Up until now, BTS had stayed quiet. Big Hit issued the usual carefully worded statement, promising refunds and thanking fans for their understanding. Taehyung himself? Silent. That silence spoke louder than any denial or reassurance. And then, Jungkook spoke. It happened on a live stream, one of those rare, unplanned moments where you can almost see the thoughts racing behind his eyes before the words even leave his mouth. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept properly in days. His hair was tousled, the kind of messy that isn't styled to be messy. He didn't smile the way he usually does when greeting fans. Instead, he started by saying, "I think you deserve to know the truth." Not the company version, the real one. It was in that moment that ARMY across the globe leaned in closer, hearts pounding. Jungkook spoke slowly, carefully, as if weighing every word. He described a chain of events leading up to LA, moments of tension, late-night phone calls, and what he called the kind of pressure that changes a person. He didn't name names, but his pauses, his glances away from the camera, they told their own story. And here's where things take a turn none of us saw coming. Jungkook revealed that Taehyung had been dealing with something far more dangerous than just exhaustion. In the weeks leading up to LA, there had been unseen forces pulling him in directions he didn't want to go. He didn't say whether it was management, industry politics, or something else entirely, but the way Jungkook phrased it, it was clear this wasn't just about music. He mentioned conversations he had with Taehyung late at night, sometimes after rehearsals, sometimes at hours when no one should be awake, where V's voice would sound different. Not the warm, playful tone fans know, but something strained, almost breaking. "I don't know if I can do this anymore," Jungkook recalled Taehyung saying, "not like this." That one sentence hit harder than any confession in recent BTS history. Because not like this hinted at a fight behind the scenes, a fight we were never meant to see. Jungkook hesitated before continuing, almost as if deciding whether to cross a line. But then he leaned forward, his voice dropping, and he said, "If we had gone ahead with the LA show, I think it would have broken him." Imagine that. One of the most beloved performers in the world, whose energy and stage presence seem unshakable, on the brink of collapse, not because of the music, but because of what was happening around it. And yet, Jungkook didn't make this sound like a story of defeat. He said Taehyung made the decision himself, against advice, against pressure, because he knew that crossing that stage in LA might come at the cost of something he couldn't get back. His health. His peace. Maybe even his love for performing. This is where it gets haunting. Jungkook described the night before the cancellation was announced. The two of them were together, just them, no cameras, no managers, watching the city lights from Taehyung's hotel balcony. V was quiet for a long time, the way someone gets when they're trying to memorize a view they might never see again. And then, almost out of nowhere, Taehyung told Jungkook something that froze him in place. Jungkook wouldn't repeat the exact words, but he said it was the kind of truth that changes the way you see a person forever. And from the way his voice trembled, it was clear this wasn't about music charts or fan expectations. This was deeper. Personal. Maybe even dangerous. Whatever that truth was, it was enough to make Jungkook say, without hesitation, cancel it. Don't think about the money. Don't think about the headlines. Just walk away. And so he did. But here's the thing, walking away didn't end it. If anything, Jungkook hinted that canceling the LA show only stirred the waters more. There were people, again, unnamed, who weren't happy with the decision. People who saw the cancellation not as an act of self-preservation, but as defiance. It was in the middle of this storm that Jungkook decided to speak out tonight. Not because the situation had been resolved, but because it hadn't. And maybe, in his own way, he was sending a warning. So the question now is, what exactly was that truth Taehyung told him on that balcony? And why does it feel like we're only scratching the surface of something much, much bigger? Jungkook didn't answer that balcony question outright. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe the weight of it was still too heavy to put into words. But instead, he began weaving in small details, pieces of a puzzle he seemed to hope we could assemble ourselves. He spoke about the weeks before the LA tour, how Taehyung had been smiling for cameras but moving differently behind them. How he would disappear during rehearsals for stretches of time, returning with that faraway look in his eyes. How his phone would buzz during late-night practice sessions, and he'd step outside to take calls, his voice hushed, his expression unreadable. Jungkook admitted he tried to ask, more than once, if something was wrong. And Taehyung would always answer with the same half-smile and the words, "It's fine. Just trust me." But there was no conviction behind them. It was the kind of "I'm fine" that we all know really means "I'm breaking, but I can't tell you why." At one point in the live stream, Jungkook stopped speaking entirely. For nearly 20 seconds, he just stared into the camera, as if wrestling with himself. And then, in a voice so quiet you had to lean in to hear, he said, "It's not my story to tell, but if you knew what he's been carrying, you'd never look at the cancellation the same way again." The camera may be off now, but somewhere, Taehyung is carrying that truth. And somewhere, Jungkook is waiting for the moment when the world is ready to hear it. Until then, we're left with the echoes of his warning, and the chilling realization that sometimes, the most important part of the story is the part we're not told. Because if this is what Jungkook could say on camera, imagine what he couldn't.